Here's how I was diagnosed with lupus. It was my freshman year of high school, and during the end of the first semester, I had really gotten sick. I started to show symptoms of fatigue and just not feeling up to par to do anything. My mom took me to the hospital, and that's when I started to not be able to keep any of my food down. Then the doctors ran some tests and they discovered that I had lupus. My bone marrow was making baby blood cells that were dying too quick for my body to handle. My kidneys were not filtering any of the toxins from my blood, and on top of that I had pneumonia and my lung had collapsed. These were all scary signs because I didn't have any control over my body and what was happening to it. But the doctors were confident in me and told me that I would be fine if I just took the medicines that they were giving me. At that time, it was scary for my family because we didn't know what was going on and I was having a big flare. I really didn't know what lupus was until I asked the doctor what it was because I had never heard of lupus. And so when they told me that it was a lifelong illness, I was kind of upset that I had it, but I realized that my life wouldn't be over, that lupus would not hold me back. I would just have to make some major lifestyle changes for me to be able to cope with lupus. And there are days that I don't feel up to par to do anything because either I'm not feeling good or I'm really sleepy or my body is just telling me to rest. But for all the people out there who do have lupus, just know that you're not alone and that it can be managed by you just knowing your signs in your body. What lifestyle changes did you have to make after finding out that you were diagnosed with lupus?
Wow, well, that's, I think initially when I discovered I had lupus, I was in my master's program at Loyola, and I was extremely fatigued and didn't know what it was. So then I had my first flare, and I had to be hospitalized for like 6 weeks. So I had to drop out of the master's program for a little while. And so it changed my whole life because then I also had to go on dialysis. And so the changes were significant.
Were you shocked when you were diagnosed with lupus?
I was. I definitely was, because I always tried to, I was vegan, vegetarian, and I jogged, and so to the degree that I knew what I was doing, I thought I was doing all that I needed to manage my health. And no one in my family had lupus, and so it was a total surprise.
How has lupus impacted your life so far?
Well, I think I've had to learn how to manage my life, and because of course I wanted to live it as close to normalcy as I could. And I think initially with the first flare, it knocked my kidney out, so I had to have, I eventually had a kidney transplant. And so now I pretty much do most things, but I pace myself, so that's probably, it means that I'm going to rest if I know I have to go someplace. It means that I'm going to see a doctor. I have a team of 3 doctors or so, and I'm going to see a doctor every three months. And I'm probably gonna watch what I eat, salt intake and things of that nature. So it's basically a total lifestyle, just managing the stress, and then I do what I wanna do.
What are some of the things that you do to keep your lupus under control?
I think we probably just touched on a little bit, but I rest. I love nature. So when I feel like I'm getting a little crazy, I probably go to the arboretum and look at the birds and watch and drive around there and listen to some music. So I found that there are things that I need to do to nurture my spirit, and I keep myself upbeat, keep myself positive. So I watch my mindset. What am I thinking about? How am I feeling? Which way am I going with that? So that I can steer myself back to that positive side. Because really, we have those endorphins, those mood regulators. If we would either get on a bike and do something, we have those hormones within ourselves. It's going to make some joy if we can move ourselves out of the funk.
What advice or encouraging words do you have to offer for somebody who was recently diagnosed with lupus?
Well, I would say, since there is no cure, I would say that it is that you can live your life pretty much to normal, but you have to develop the skills to be aware of what's going on in your body. Know what it is. It's like you have that little extra sense that's going on. Okay, well, what is that? You know, if I've been out in the sun too long, what is that tingling? Or, you know, why am I feeling that way? So you have this little antenna that's going off that's letting you know that you're all of a sudden totally exhausted. But other than that, I would say go out and live your life. I feel that with my last 2 degrees, I got them with lupus. I went back to Loyola, I finished my master's, and of course I got my PhD. And the whole thing was letting my professors know that I have lupus. And and so I'm gonna pace myself. So that's what I would say. You can live your life, but you just have to be intentional and manage it.
How was your family impacted by you having lupus?
Wow. Well, I think it scared them. It especially scared my mother. I'm the only daughter. I'm the oldest, and I was always the healthiest, you know. I think it made her nervous because with my first with that hospitalization, I had so many life-changing things, times when I could have almost died, and I think she was worried. My kids, I have 4 kids, and they were there at the hospital. So the amazing thing that I found, especially with that 6 weeks of hospitalization, I spent Christmas and New Year's in the hospital. It was probably, I won't say the best, but just knowing that gifts and all those things aren't important because they were there at the hospital. They said, we'll have Christmas when you get out. And so that kind of helped me to see the other side of them. So I think they're doing pretty good. My daughter is the youngest, and she just told me that I think you're traveling a little too much, Mom, so I don't know if we're changing roles. But so I think to some degree they watch out for me, but they all know that I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
What support group did you have to cope with your lupus?
Well, let me see. My support group was my core group of friends. I attempted to start a support group. I took the training from the Lupus Society, but there weren't a lot of people. Where I live, I would either have to come to Naperville. I'm in Burridge, so I would have had to go into the city. So actually I started a support group at our church. It's called DuPage Cares, and it is a support group but it's a support group for more than just lupus. It's just, it will encompass a lot of issues that people are having that are ongoing chronic issues.
Lupus is an autoimmune disease that affects any part of the body, including joints, muscles, bones, and vital organs. Autoimmunity means that your immune system cannot tell the good tissue from the bad tissue, and so it'll attack the good tissue thinking that it's the bad tissue. It's usually caused by inflammation due to you being in the sun or due to your immune system being in overdrive. There are several different types of lupus. Systematic lupus, or SLE, is the most common lupus. Neonatal lupus is lupus that affects the newborn. Drug-induced lupus is lupus that is caused by some medicines. Discoid lupus is lupus of the skin, which can cause rashes. And subacute lupus is lupus that can create sores on the body. No, there are no rare forms of lupus. There are clinical trials, there are steroids and autoimmune suppressants that can help treat your lupus. No, there's no gene that is determined who has lupus. Eat lots of vegetables. Manage your salt intake. If you do eat a lot of salt, I prefer sea salt is the best way. Wear sunscreen and try to stay out of the sun as much as possible. Wear sun protecting clothes and stay hydrated and get lots of exercise. Wear sunscreen. Make sure your stress is reduced and drink lots of water. Swelling of the joints, sensitivity in the sunlight or any light, headaches, upset stomach. Foods that are good for people with lupus is fish, low calcium foods such as low fat milk, yogurt, cheese, dark green vegetables. Foods that are bad for people with lupus is garlic, nightshade vegetables such as white potatoes, eggplants, sweet and hot peppers, and alcohol. If you do drink alcohol, limit your intake because that can mess with some of your medicines. There's no single diagnostic test for systematic lupus. The test that is most commonly used is called the anti-nuclear antibody test, or the ANA test. This test is not specifically for lupus, but it does detect physical changes and conditions in your body that occur with lupus. The types of drugs that have been used to treat lupus includes NSAIDs, corticosteroids, and other immune system suppressing drugs. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new about lupus.